Look, would you be in a position to assemble all these people we have listed here? We left the meeting, and as I said, very little came out of that. But I still remember, and I think I've told the story, under President Jonathan, there was what was called the Inter-Party Secretariat. I think it was chaired by Senator Ben Obi. I don't know whether it was a secretariat, but he was the special advisor to the president on inter-party affairs. A very strategic position at that time, which I think is still very much required, because Ben Obi brought quite a lot of professionalism, pushed the boundaries of dialogue and so on, and insisted that parties needed to be talking together. It was then that the Office for Inter-Party Affairs organized a very big conference that took place here in Abuja. I was invited to that conference. I was unable to, I happened to be in Abuja, but I couldn't make it to the conference. And I didn't know anybody would take notice. But at about 8 p.m. that evening, I received a call from Chiremeka Anyoku. And I thought he was going to scold me because he had chaired the meeting. I thought he was going to scold me for not being at the meeting. I apologized to him. And then he says to me, have you met Kofi Annan? And I said, I haven't met Kofi Annan. No, he said, do you know Kofi Annan? I said, I don't know Kofi Annan, but I know of Kofi Annan by reputation. And he said, well, he's asking after you, I would like to meet you. And I said, well, I didn't think that was possible because I hadn't met the man before. I said, look, Kofi Annan is about to leave for the airport, but he's ready to wait if you're anywhere near the Hilton. And I said, well, I could get to the Hilton in 10 minutes. And I remember getting to the Hilton, and Kofi Annan embraced me quite warmly, and then said to me, look, I've just come from, you know what happened in Kenya? Because the elections in Kenya had gone badly wrong. I think about 1,000 or so people had lost their lives. It had never happened in Kenya before. And then, of course, as you know, there was a looming cloud around Nigeria based on two things. The first was that it was alleged that the Americans had predicted that Nigeria was going to fall apart. And then, of course, in 2011, tensions were heightened by the idea that the famous expression of the late President Muhammadu Buhari of blessed memory, who, after losing the election, had made the point that the next election it will be blood for the dog and blood for Birijini, Kerejini, that it was going to be literally a war with no boundaries. That metaphor rang in the ears of so many Nigerians. And so there was quite a lot of understandable anxiety as to what will happen with the 2015 elections. Long story short, Kofi Annan's call was what led to the setting up of the National Peace Committee, because all the instructions he gave me was to assemble credible Nigerians together to be able to do this. And the list, as you know, is pretty long. A good number of the members of the Peace Committee are, for all kinds of reasons, unable to be physically here. Quite a good number of them on grounds of old age. Some are not well. General Abdul Salam is out of the country. He has, I've seen 2 or 3 messages from him, wondering whether all this has ended and ended very well. So he's with us in spirit. But I just want to make the point again that it's not the numbers. The Peace Committee has continued to do extraordinarily good work. That much I can say. We were not set up, you know, to monitor elections and make sure that elections are. We were set up to encourage Nigerians. And I want to just use 2 examples, if you indulge me. Many of us are convinced, and I've had people say to me, are we really doing anything? Do people just sign a card and go home? The governor of Ekiti, I happened to have met him, I think, about 2 or 3 weeks ago. And as the chairman of INEC would testify, the elections in Ekiti went very, very well and very smooth. But he said to me, when you people came to Ekiti, and we had to sign, and I had to sign that peace committee, we the members who were in Ekiti remembered that even right up to the eve of the signing of the peace accord, there had been a lot of bloodshed. But he said, when I put my signature to that, I decided to take it seriously. So seriously that when we went back to Ekiti before the elections, Asebe, who made the beautiful presentation, they had made a similar presentation and indicated that the staff of the Kukah Center that had been in Ekiti for almost 5 weeks had found only two incidents of violence. And he said, what I have done, and I think this is what I encourage our politicians to do, because violence is directly related to the unresolved issues among political competitors. He said to me, I had gone out of my way to make peace with all the political enemies of my predecessor because he had also encouraged me to do so. To the point that at the last elections in Ekiti, literally every politician was literally behind the governor. So I make this point because a lot of poor people continue to die for issues that politicians have not been able to resolve. The second point is what has happened in Osun. And I want to congratulate the governor. But also, I think we can learn a lesson from the way that Governor Adeleke conducted himself. Let me put it that way. I've known him for quite some time. I got his number. I called him not once, not twice. He never answered my phone and didn't return my phone. But after we signed the peace accord in Osun, from then till Friday, there was hardly any day the governor was not on the phone to me, reporting the incidents of violence. And the good news here, and I wanted to take this news to the Inspector General of Police, we had a triangular conversation. Governor Adeleke will call to report this incident, and I will call the Inspector General of Police, who was kind enough to constantly answer my phone. He said, look, they have arrested my secretary to government. I called IG. The next day, the secretary to government was released. He said, they have arrested 87 people from Ekiti. They brought them to Abuja. I called the Inspector of Police. He responded. As he kept making these accusations, I kept passing the information to the Inspector General of Police. These triangular conversations largely led to the encouragement, because I also kept encouraging the governor, continue, complain, and continue. And I think it is to be, the lesson we learn here is that the crying for help is important. But also, we need the institutions of state to be able to respond to those cries. So I really just want to congratulate the people of Ekiti, and also want to congratulate the Inspector General of Police. But over and above that, have found it very comfortable to criticize institutions of government, and they deserve criticism. But this is our country. We are not going anywhere. It is for us to build. All the members of the Peace Committee, none of them has received a single penny, nor has has anybody asked for a single penny. This work is being done for free. You saw General Abdul Salam come into this hall and other places with a walking stick. So I just want to thank the members of the Peace Committee. And as you know, we were supposed to have gone home after the 2015 elections. But when we came back, when we met with President Jonathan, I met with President Buhari, I met with the Senate President, I met with the Speaker, I met with the different political parties and the media. Everybody said, no, the Peace Committee cannot go anywhere. But the lesson we learned here is that the President, I remember President Buhari was so excited that he said the Peace Committee must not go anywhere. And he turned to Babachir, who was the Secretary to Government. He said, please find them an office immediately. Get the Peace Committee a permanent office. But when we went back and had a conversation, we decided we will not take an office from government. And I think why the Peace Committee has remained, even if it is one person or two people, why we have remained credible is because we are not being funded by the government. And this is why I would like to thank the European Union, because they have stepped in and they have been responsible. And they have followed us every step of the way. So everything we have achieved today would probably not have been possible without the support of the European Union. Your Excellency, I want to please beg you to convey our appreciation and gratitude, and that we really appreciate this encouragement. Lastly, I want to thank my staff at the Kukah Center. And I wish they were all here, because if they were here, I'll ask all of them to come out. They've done extraordinarily good work. under the leadership of Atta Barkindo. And with them, you can go to sleep. The average age of the staff of the Kukah Center is 25 or 27. They're doing exceptionally good work, and I'm confident that the lessons they are learning here will make them not only better citizens, but better politicians. So finally, I commit myself, and I think we all must commit ourselves to certain principles, that Nigeria has a date with destiny, and that despite the violence, despite the kidnapping, despite the setback, Nigeria's greatness will still be achieved in our lifetime. The Nigerian politicians believe, there are many of them who believe, as one of our singers has said, they believe that they will be rich till they die. But we ordinary people must wear face masks, no matter the matter. We also are entitled to a good life. So, once again, Mr. President, ably represented by the Secretary of the Government of the Federation, Senate President, Speaker, members of the National Assembly, governors, and everybody who is here, I want on behalf of all of us to say how very grateful we are. The media, we thank you for the great work you continue to do, and we ask Almighty God to bless you. So for all of us who have been here, I'm sure you have enjoyed the ambience of this hall. When a friend of mine came from Nigeria to visit me, I was a student in London. We entered the underground train, and we bought what they call the all-day pass. That was, we could go to anywhere we wanted. On our way back home, my friend said, this train is not enough. These £2 we pay. And he said, okay, he wanted to keep going around London. He didn't know where he was going. He just kept going around the train because he said he must follow this train until sunset. Then he would have made his money. So I believe that given how much we pay to enter this hall, it has been worthwhile, and I'm sure you have stayed here and enjoyed the air condition. By the time you go back home, there may be no NEPA. But we'd like to thank all those who made this place possible. Our daughter, Ms. Komolafe, came back from London yesterday. And it is a miracle that she and her team were able to put together what we have here today. Because, yes, as at yesterday, you wouldn't have recognized this hall. So I really want to personally thank her and thank the European Union for linking her up with us. Once again, I thank you and I ask Almighty God to bless all of us. Long live the Federal Republic of Nigeria. Thank you.